go live button that says it's creating a live broadcast,
Let's do the go live dance.
wherein we may view the comments and questions and such.
Your sound to me is, oh, hey, it says we're live.
Yeah, we're live. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, no, your sound is great. I was going to say, your sound to me sounds great.
Oh, good. TMFA, welcome behind the curtain to setting up a Facebook Live. Hi, everybody. Happy Technique Tuesday to everyone out there on TMFA. As I promised last week, I was going to come back with my friend Eliza Simpson because we got so many great questions last Tuesday about accents, accent acting, learning accents, accent training, and all of that stuff that we didn't actually get to talk about what we showed up to talk about, which, by the way, is a problem that we want to have. So if any of you out there on TMFA, you still have questions, things of that nature, please put them in the comments. We want to help you out today with your accent training, accent acting, anything accent related at all. Eliza Simpson and I are here to help. So that being said, if we do get a chance, in between all the awesome questions that come in, Eliza and I are going to discuss today the topic of how to succeed on set. All right. A lot of the work that I have been privileged to talk to you all about in the last year, just about, has been focused more on where do we start our accent training? What do we do accent-wise when we need to get ready for an audition? How do we handle that process? What's that process like? How do I know that I can acquire an accent quickly and well for an audition so I can be successful there? All of those kinds of things. But we haven't talked yet about congratulations, you booked the job. Now what do we do to make sure that you can kick butt on set? You can be the best actor possible on set. So that's why I've invited Eliza Simpson on with me to talk about that. Now, for those of you who were not here last week, I'm going to turn it over to Eliza in just a second so she can introduce herself to you and everything. But as I always say before we get started, my friends, if you're here watching this, let us know. Say hello in the comments. I want to see who's here, who's watching, where you're watching from. Let me know why you're here, what you're hoping to get out of today. And if you have any questions, pop those in the comments. We will absolutely get to them. If we don't get to them live, we circle back. We'll answer them afterwards in the comments as well. So I think that's all I have in preparation. Eliza, if you would introduce yourself to all of our friends here on TMFA, and we'll dive in from there.
Absolutely. Hello, TMFA. My name is Eliza Simpson. I am a Brooklyn-based dialect coach for production and for private client. I work on productions for television and film, most recently Hulu, Netflix, and the upcoming, can't talk about it, large sequel for for Warner Brothers. So much of what we do.
I'll flash NDA across the screen here real quick to remind you. Can't talk about it.
Can't talk about it. Well, so excited to talk about it. But so much of the work that we do is in support of really fantastic layered storytelling. So that's what I'm passionate about. That's what I do. But I also work one-on-one with private clients. So my clients are from all over the world, actors at all different levels and amounts of experience within the industry. So I'm very privileged to do that. I'm very excited about the abilities of accent to help tell a story and for the kind of physical intelligence that accent brings to the actor as a tool. So these are the things
talk more about that. I love this physical intelligence. Yeah. Now, for those of you who are just meeting Eliza, of all the colleagues that I have, we describe her as the yummiest because she just says tasty things that are like, yummy, ooh, I want. So physical intelligence, that's a very yummy thing. Tell us more about what you mean by physical intelligence.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So physical intelligence meaning specifically the sort of wealth of knowledge and wealth of instinct that we carry in the body, and the muscle memory that allows us to observe and recreate. And that's what we do as we learn to speak. You know, we don't always think about speech in this way, but speech is a physical action that we learned by watching and recreating what we saw around us. We think of our voices as very much our own, and they are, because we created them. But the inspiration for the way that we sound came from all of the speakers that we have ever observed.
Absolutely. Right? I'm fond of saying to my clients these days, you know, like when they ask me, so what's the challenge of learning new accents? What's the challenge of acquiring these things? I talk a lot about physical skill, and then I often make a little joke, and then I say, listen, do you remember what it was like when you learned how to talk? And invariably they go, well, no, I have no memory of that. I say, that's the challenge. This would all be a lot easier if you had actual memories of what that was like, because we would just do that again with our new accents that we want to target, right? If only we remembered it, right? So let's see who's here with us. Nadine Emmerich or Emmerich. Correct me if I mispronounced your name, by the way, Nadine or Nadine, depending on what part of the world you are from. This is very cool. I agree. Eliza is very cool. And Chantel is here. Chantel is one of my connections in the UK. So Chantel, welcome. Bring all of your friends there in London. It is almost your bedtime, so make sure that you've got a nice cuppa here, kind of smooth your awakeness, and gives a little caffeine in there, right? Yeah, see, we're all on the same board. It's not quite as late, but absolutely. So good to see you. And my friends, if you're just joining us, please let us know in the comments who you are, where you're from, and why you're here. Want to know all of that. Delicious. All right. So, should we talk about onset readiness?
Let's talk about onset readiness. It's a it's a set of skills that it sometimes feels like by the time you get to that point, I don't know about you, but it feels like you've gone through so much to get there. And it's rarer, let's say. It's not impossibly rare, but it is rarer to find yourself in the position of, oh, hey, here I am, than, oh, hey, time to film this audition. That's right. 5 times a day.
Yeah, because we get way more auditions than we actually book jobs. And that's why, if you're new to acting, my friends, and some of you know on TMFA, just know TMFA, that's the name of this place, TMFA. Just know this, the job is really the audition. Right, that's your job, is have a great package, good materials, be a good client for your reps, and then to do the audition. All right, and here's the beauty about the audition: when your agent calls you with the audition and says, "Congratulations, you have an audition. Do you have the job?" No. All right. When you prepare for the audition, all right, and you start memorizing, you do your work. Do you have the job? No. All right. When you start prepping your accent as the part of that for the audition, do you have the job? No. When you film the audition and you do your self-tape, do you have the job? No. When you take that self-tape and you send it to your agent for them to look, do you have the job? No. When they send it in to casting and casting sees it for the first time, do you have the job yet? No. So really, the only thing that can change is that you get a job. There should be no other pressure on you outside of the only thing that can change out of my status quo is that I get a job. I didn't have this job. It's not like I lost it if I don't get it. The only thing that can happen is that you get that job. So for new actors, just know the audition that's the job of you as an actor. You can do vastly more auditions than you will bookings, because that's just how the odds, it's like baseball. Good batters will hit the pitch maybe a third of the time, usually closer to a quarter of the time, right? For us in acting, when we book jobs, it's kind of those same odds. It's probably a little worse, in fact.
I mean, yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably the odds are a little harsher for us. And so I love it. Like, Eliza, you're absolutely right. When we get to we book the job, we have been through an entire like process of submission, audition, probably callback, depending on the size of the job, another callback, maybe 2 or 3 more callbacks if you're being considered for a regular or a lead in a feature or a pilot, something like that. All just to like say, congratulations, here's a contract to sign. We'll show up on set this on this particular day, right?
Absolutely. And my favorite part of being a coach is to present actors with tools, solid techniques that allow them to, right there at the end of the process, right? You've gone through all of that, get to set, right there at the end of the process, when you might be feeling exhausted or when you might be feeling overwhelmed by new stimuli.
Mm.
My favorite part of the job is giving you techniques that you can employ right then to carry you through, help you finish that job as strong as you started.
I love that. Talk about the new stimuli, because this is one of my favorites. So
there's so much new stimuli. This new stimuli is essentially it's a whole bunch of new. I mean, it is a lot of new responsibility, right? You do need to kind of show up. You need to help other people do their job. That's a huge thing. You've got people who need to fit you for your outfits. You got people who need to mic you. You got people who need to get you from point A to point B. You got people who need to put beautifying on your face. You have people who need to then move you from point B to point C. You have people who need you to hit point X at exactly the same time as that person hits point Y. You know, so personally, I'm a bit of an empath. And so when I get to this last part in the process, I get hit with all of these new individuals, their new energy. And that for me is what kind of overwhelms the circuits. I'm like, oh, so many people, new people. And on top of that, you know, you gotta like say the lines and be brilliant and all that good stuff. But for me, what tends to kind of overrun my circuits is all of a sudden you were, you know, just you doing your thing. And now you're you and 50, 60, 70 other people.
Yeah. How many people does it take to make a movie or a TV show on any one day on that set? Any guesses out there? I want to see in the comments what people think about this. How many people do you think it takes to like run that set, just on average? Obviously, some sets are bigger than others, some productions are larger than others and smaller than others. But what do you guys think out there? I'll just keep my eye on the comments here, seeing how people have caught up. But I want to say, how many people do you guys think it takes to run one of those sets? And while you're answering that, I'm going to throw this other piece of information out here. In terms of like the scope of what we're often dealing with. The amount of money it costs to run a set, all right? And this is usually where the anxiety levels are running high for everybody on that set. A big major motion picture set costs somewhere in the realm of $1,000 a minute to run. $1,000 a minute, all right? So every hour is $60,000 on an 18-hour day, right? This is why people have high stress levels sometimes in this business, because they're in charge of husbanding this money sort of throughout the process and making sure that it pays off with awesome art. All right, Andy Au, I hope that's how you pronounce your last name, Andy. It says 40 to 50 people. Yeah, and so yeah, $300,000 a day to run that set. George Markin says, my first day on set, I wondered how does anybody make any money? Because we're spending so much money. That's the nature of the business. Because then you release the movie and you hope to make all of that back worldwide, national, and like that's really where, that's why the blockbuster has taken over this business in large part, because the studios will bet on that kind of more guaranteed payback on everything. Right. So I only see one answer, ladies and gentlemen. I see enough people watching this live video.
All right, but maybe people are a little nervous to guess. That's okay. It's okay if people are nervous to guess.
But listen, as I always say, when given an opportunity to leap into the unknown, be fearless. Be fearless and just leap. Go, wee, I hope there's a net. I promise there is. I promise. Eliza and I are both very kind. But it's worth putting out your idea into the world. especially because it trains you to be fearless as an artist in this moment as well. So we have an answer, 40 to 50 people on set. Any other guesses? Eliza, what's your guess?
40 to 50, that's a small set. That's a small set. That's a small crew and maybe 2-3 actors.
Yeah. Yeah. What about like a major network television show like Chicago Med or?
I mean, you're gonna have 100 is a you know, there's a margin of error around that, because you might have well over 150 people on set.
Yeah.
Just making an episode.
Easily. Without breaking a sweat at all throughout the day.
With COVID, you know, maybe our number is closer to 100 in actuality. But actually maybe not, because, you know, you need additional bodies there for security. You need people, health professionals, and so it is going to be in between 100 and 150.
A lot. To boil it down, that's going to feel. Imagine this. Imagine you've gone from just you and your coach. Imagine you and Eliza were working together. So it's been all very yummy and exciting, and you've got very deep into the work, and like it's all feeling great. And then you show up on set, and suddenly it's not just you and Eliza anymore. It's you, Eliza, and 150 people that you don't know, all frenetically kind of working around. So just know that one of the first things that happens when you show up on set is probably this rush of energy and, you know, this. Right? Yeah. That's probably going to be one of the first things that happens. All right? So what do you do in that instance? How do you prep yourself to, like, if you know likely I'm going to walk in there, it's going to feel very new. I'm going to feel kind of lost. I'm going to feel like I don't know anybody. I want to make good first impressions, and I want to be a pro. I want to do this really, really well. What's the best advice that you can give them, Eliza, for that situation?
Okay. I wish someone had shared this with me. So the last thing you want to be, right, is I hope I'm using this word correctly, a noob. Yeah,
you don't want to look green.
Yeah, you don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing. You want to burden people, right? And honestly, the way to do that is take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Bring some oxygen into your body, right? I guarantee you, as soon as that oxygen hits your bloodstream, you're going to have a better idea of where you are. You're going to think a little bit more clearly. The things that you actually know to be true, you're going to suddenly remember. You know, common sense things will kick in again, like arrows that lead to the thing you need. Personal boundaries kick back in, like, oh yeah, let me get out of the way of this person. Let me do this for this person. Breathe, because Chris said it. When you hit set and that sort of like wash of energy hits you, I guarantee you will have stopped. So force yourself to take that breath. Realize you've stopped breathing. Force yourself to take that breath. And here's the thing. If you genuinely don't know what's going on or where you should be, etc., ask. Like, that's not looking like a noob. If you genuinely don't know and it's information you need, ask. And that's it. That's it. Ask for the help you need. Don't try to look cool. That doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's wasted energy. Because everybody on set is there for one reason: to make this project awesome. All right, everyone's energy is focused towards that. So your energy also needs to be focused towards that, including the ways that you know, like, let me just ask the question, like, do you have any idea where the second AD is? Because I need to check in before I go to hair and makeup and make sure there's any rewrites. Like, those kinds of things, you know, it's information you need to know. And there's probably a PA walking around somewhere who can get on their walkie-talkie, tell you these things in a calm manner that sends you on your way. and get you started that day. It's likely you're going to have that information anyway, but if you don't, you have to ask. You can't just wander around for 45 minutes and waste nearly $1,000 of the set's time wondering where the hell you're supposed to be, right? And we haven't even gotten to like, what do I do about my accent yet?
That's right. That's why we're here.
We haven't even talked about that.
Hit me with those questions.
So the reason why I want to talk about this first, my friends, is because one of the things that I talk about when you come work with me and we have to prep you for the project. I'm working with an actor right now who's going to be on set this weekend, and we had a session last night, and we have another one tomorrow to prep for this specific thing, which is when you show up, the work that you've done to prepare your acting and your accent has to be so deeply ingrained into you as an actor that what we just talked about, that walking on set tidal wave that hits you, doesn't throw you off your game. Absolutely. That's the thing. Which is why I started with this. So, in terms of that prep, the question I wrote for you, Eliza, what's the number one thing that an actor can do to ensure that they have a shot at success on set when acting with an accent? What's the number one thing that actor can do?
Number one thing is to give yourself prep time.
How much?
It's the time right now. Start right now. Yeah, no. Give yourself prep time. Absolutely. You got to put this in your muscles. Sleep on it, forget about it, bring it back, lay it in there until it has become a muscle memory. Mm-hmm. That takes longer than you think it does. And so the answer is get started right now, drill it every single day. That's it.
Yeah. And, depending on the nature of the production, you're going to have timelines that you're working in. Like you may get cast and then you have a couple of weeks before you're on set. So you're not always gifted with what you might feel is enough time to prep. Like you may not feel that. Just know that whatever time you do have, you want to try to use that to the best effect possible. So that if it is 2 weeks, it's the best 2 weeks of accent prep you could possibly get. Mm-hmm. Right? Because, we take what life gives us and we make lemonade out of those lemons sometimes, right? Or, I once heard somebody say, when life gives you lemonade, when life gives you lemons, you shut up and eat the damn lemons, right? So that's another way I like it. Sure, I'm just going to eat the lemons. The lemons are delicious. Right? In their own way. Right?
I like that. I like that. It reminds me of another one I heard where somebody said, when you think something's going to be easy peasy, lemon squeezy, and it turns out to be difficult, lemon difficult. I was like, I feel like I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
The sentiment there is so clear.
Lemon difficult.
Lemon difficult. Yeah. No, so Chris, the answer is time. Mm-hmm. Time, and to make it just what you described, to get that physical memory of the accent so deep that nothing can throw it. The anxiety or whatever thoughts are running through your brain, they run over the top of it. Water over roof tiles.
Absolutely. Now, in that same vein, let's fast forward, like we've gotten prepped and I'll come back to that process here in a second. But let's imagine now that you are on set, you're standing on your mark, they're measuring, like they've done all that stuff, they've got the lights all set, and someone's ready to yell action. Do you anticipate that being a moment of anxiety, perhaps, for an actor occasionally?
It absolutely can be. And if it is for you, if you've experienced that moment, you're not alone. Everything is built to sort of make it feel like so many things are coming together, and they finally will come together on action. I know I have experienced that anxiety myself. Let me speak to, I have a hack, a personal hack.
Ladies and gentlemen, write this down. This is gold, my friend.
Well, so I'll preface it by saying I'm not alone. I did not invent the idea that you should start warming up the accent a couple of moments before action, even if you haven't been speaking in it nonstop, which is also an option, and a good one, I think, if you're on set. But even if so, you got yourself to your position like Chris does, they're getting ready. I did not invent the concept of starting to talk in accent before, maybe if you have a phrase, a springboard phrase, saying your springboard phrase, breathing, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But this is my personal twist on that chestnut. There's always the voice of someone when they're talking about the sound. So the sound starts rolling before the picture, usually, or at least before action. As soon as I hear the sound guy say rolling, I imagine the sound guy has said action. That's my only secret.
Yes.
Like, I let that happen and I go, yeah. So by the time I hear action, it flies over my head. I'm untouchable. I've already had my surge of adrenaline. It's happened to me. That's it. But
my friends, this may seem like a tiny thing, but it's giant. Like, it's actually a really great way to trick your physiological reactions of anxiety and excitement into happening earlier, so that they're not in your way when it really does matter, when the director yells at you. Right? Like, you want to do anything you can to set yourself up to have the best shot at success for your accent, for your acting. And you all should take this and write it down and make sure to remember to use this. Because, this is a piece of technique. Why do we have technique? Because someday you'll be on set and your talent will take the day off. For like a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, a whole day. But your talent's just like, I'm not having this today, I'm out. And technique is there to say, yoink, you're coming back, let's play again. So the technique is there to unleash your talent. And this is a little piece of technique that you can use to unleash your talent when anxiety or whatever it is shows up in that moment before you have to go. Because that's not you at your best, I don't think, probably. And this will help you to be at your best. This is why we have technique. Because your talent will just be like, sorry, I'll be in the trailer, right? I'm going to go home early.
Do you have any hacks or pieces of, I guess they're not hacks if they're techniques. Do you have any techniques for action?
I do in this case. It's similar to yours in a way, but what I recognized early on, and I use this I train public speakers and I coach TED Talks as well. And I often have speakers who are like, this is their first big TED speech and they're really nervous. And it's making the rehearsal process a little jumpy. And I'm like, that's fine. Just recognize this, my friends. Anxiety and excitement and joy are physiologically identical. Physiologically identical. The heart rate, the breath, sweat, all of the stuff you feel when you're anxious is identical to what you feel when you're excited and joyful. Identical. So all you have to do when you feel whatever feelings those are come up, you have to kind of train yourself over time. Every time you sense one, you go, oh, I'm excited. Oh, joyful. Oh, excited. Oh, joyful. Because really it's just your body trying to prep you to do well. You just want to do well, and that's good. You should want to do well. So anytime those things come up, every time you breathe, ooh, excited. Ooh, that's joyful. Ooh, excited. And then you can welcome the experience in, as opposed to going, oh, I can't feel anxious. I can't. I'm trying to block that. Ooh, boy, now you've shut off everything that makes you a great actor. Your breath, probably, you're collapsing physically, those kinds of things, right? So this is one of the things that just every time you breathe and feel those, for me, it's always in my solar plexus, something there, and I feel something back in my neck and my breath speeds up. I want to choose to recognize that as excitement and joy. Opportunity knocks.
Depending on how you feel about roller coasters, it's that top of the roller coaster.
Right, yeah.
You're getting on that roller coaster, though.
Yeah, but acting can be like a roller coaster, can't it? The best moment-to-moment acting we're involved in is like somebody's put you on a roller coaster backwards with a blindfold on and said, go, have fun, except every time that they put you on that roller coaster, the track is a little different. It changes, so you can't actually expect where the turns and the loops are going to come from, right? So if you can learn to love that, right? All of a sudden, moment-to-moment acting stuff, and especially on set where you're going to be bombarded with all this stuff, that can become easier now, I think.
That's very true. That's a good point, Chris.
Let's see here. Let's rewind. Do you remember we talked about how at some point you're likely to be in a makeup chair, getting your face beautified and your hair did?
Yes,
all right. At some point that's likely to happen. And at some point as well, someone is likely to show up with a sheaf of papers and say, here, these are the rewrites for that scene.
Absolutely.
Okay, what do we do in that instance? Because for accent stuff, we've likely gone through all the sides you already have, and we've worked the lines as they have been written. Now we have new lines with potentially new words that we haven't encountered before, new turns of phrase, new sentence structures we haven't seen before. What do we do when rewrites show up for accents?
Whew. Breathe.
Yeah.
We breathe.
You guys noticing some commonality here?
We breathe.
Don't freak out. Breathe.
Because here's the thing. I think that's the most common experience on set. You realize that you have stopped. You have stopped breathing. And just let that air back in. The makeup trailer is a sacred place because the makeup artists and the hairstylists have a very important job to do and a very limited amount of time to do that job in. And so you, as the professional, you want to make their life as easy as possible. You want to be as easy to move around and focus around as possible, right? A lot of times, though, you have to read your lines out loud. You have to speak. You have to make sound. You have to take up space. You have to breathe. So, golden rule is always to check with your makeup artist. Is it okay if I hold this here? Can you still get to everything you need to get to? Can I keep my eyes at this level to read the script? Is that okay? Do you mind if I go through these lines out loud? I mean, obviously you got to do your job, right? They got to let that happen. The only reason they're going to say no is if, no, I have to put stuff on your lips. No, hang on a second. I need you to close your eyes so I can put stuff on your eyes. No, I need you to look down so I can get to the back of your head. But if you don't ask, they can't tell you what they need. Precious moments are lost. It's highly practical. But let's speak more to the point of accents, Chris.
But because this is all one. Because now, like at base level, let's say you're acting your own accent, that's what we deal with. Now we have to add this other thing, and let's assume at this point you also have your accent coach on set. Let's also make that assumption as well.
That's a nice assumption. I like that assumption. So,
yeah,
Chris,
what do we do? What do we do to make sure that we can practice the accent with the new stuff at that same time?
Well, Chris, this is great. Let's imagine that let's imagine that I'm talent. You're the coach. And I'm sitting here and they've just handed me new sides. They're those kind of rewrites that are like stupidly close to the old script, just different enough to make it really complicated to re-memorize. And I turn to you with fear in my eyes and I say, my lines are different.
Great, you're absolutely right, they are. And I'll say, breathe. Now, I just want you to take a quick look at the script. And I want you to notice in the rewrites any words you already know. Just notice what's already there that we've already gone through, right? Anything that's even similar to what you already know, that you go, I think I got this too. Now, my friends, I would ask you to do this. I'm asking Eliza to do this because this sets you up to go, where does my work actually lie today? Because it's not everywhere. It's likely that we will have gone through 80 to 85% of what's in the rewrites at some point already, just not in this order. So you can look at it and say, okay, well, now I see a dozen words here that I'm uncertain of. Great. Let's talk about those dozen words as opposed to the 60 words. Now, suddenly, don't you feel like, oh, this is doable?
I gotta tell you, even as Chris told me that, I took a breath in. You see me, like, see me slow my heart rate?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, Chris, I'm focused on the things I can do. And I do know. This is so much better than a minute ago when I thought I was going to die.
If we've done our prep the right way, my friends, we're in a position where you will know more than you think you do in that moment. Because just in the rush of everything that's going on, getting you ready, rewrites, makeup, chair, the whole thing, just the experience of being on set that day, knowing the job that you have to do and wanting to be good at it, all of that, some of what you have already, the knowledge, is going to go like, I'm just going to sit back here until you need me. And they're going to take a back seat. And one of the jobs that I have as a coach is to help you go, look in that back seat. All that stuff we worked on, it's here still. It is here with you today. And so we can rely on it. We can actually wait for this. Trust it. We've worked hard enough to get it here that you can trust it. So let's look where our work lies. Let's not necessarily care about where our work doesn't lie. All right? We don't need to stress over all the things we know already and that we can, I think I got that. And then we say, okay, these are the words that I think I need help with. We'll practice those real quick. And I'll say, now, put that in context of the line and just give it your best shot. Don't worry about right or wrong. Worry about your best shot. I'm here. I am your accent coach. I got your back on this one. All right? You don't need to be scared about whether this is going to go right or wrong, because we'll get you there in front of the camera for sure. All right? And then you have an opportunity to do, my friends, what you all do best, which is to be explorers, to be curious, to be actors, start going, ooh, this is a cool thought process. Oh, that's an interesting moment that I can fit in there, to start making choices, to make notes on the script, right? Because it's not that you have the pressure of having to memorize this all in the next 30 seconds. You have until they yell action, right? And let's face it, there'll be times when somebody yells action and you forget a line. This happens to actors, right? So you do have some freedom to be a human being still. Right, just so long as you have a piece of technique that gets that line back when you need it in the next take.
Technique.
Right? Technique is everything. My friends, you can hear us repeat this ad nauseum. Technique. Eliza, should we have technique?
We should have technique. Who is the person I should look to for this technique? Because I will need it. Who should I look to?
Yeah, your accent coach.
That's their whole thing. That's the whole reason they're there, is to give you these techniques.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, unfortunately, with any kind of coaching, it may have been in the past that there was a world where you had one teacher, you had one coach or somebody where it felt like they had all the answers and you had none of the answers. And that's a very real experience.
Yeah. You feel like you can't do it without them. And we never want to put you in that position, right? Because at some point, you're going to be out there in front of the camera. We will be crouched in a bush behind the sound guy trying to take quiet notes on what good audio was, right? And you will be there doing your work on your own. So at some point, you have to trust the work that you have done with your coach. You've been given enough of the skills and tools to be able to be successful like you want in that moment. Right? And it's never going to feel perfect. Has anybody ever had a perfect scene? Yeah, no, I don't think those things exist, right? So if you embrace the little nuances and imperfections, that's why we do 35 takes from all those different directions. So the editor can piece together something that's like awesome out of all of that nuance. Yeah.
I was going to say, if anyone's had a perfect take, it would have been Chris Lang.
Well, okay. That one.
Everybody has a mountaintop. You know what I mean?
I used mine early on in life. Some people save theirs for, when they're in a position to win an Oscar, but I used mine early on. It's fine. Okay, let's say here we go. Here's a question I get asked a lot that I wrote down. Somebody, an actor I had, asked me this. So, Eliza, we mentioned this before. Thoughts about staying in accent all day long, in between takes, during conversations about notes with the director. Thoughts on that?
My way of coaching, and I know that you and I share this, is that you know, the posture, the vocal tract posture, is a huge and kind of like base, kind of, you know, central core part of this dialect work. And once you're in it, it doesn't really serve you to get out of it and get back in it and get out of it and get back in it. You're there. You might as well stay. And because of that, I find that makes transition easier, that makes improvisation easier, that makes taking in new ideas, new direction easier. I'm a stay in the accent all day advocate. That said, I'm also a big advocate towards saying that there are, you can like talk about it. You can say why, you know what I mean? And you should. If you're working on a scene, you can say to your scene partner, hey, do you mind if I stay in the accent between takes? It's just going to help me with the, you know, make it about you. Say why. It's going to help me hang on to the accent. Talking to the first AD or the second AD, hey, do you mind if I stay in the accent in between takes? Do you mind if I stay in the accent in the makeup trailer? Do you mind if I stay in the accent? Do you mind if I stay in the accent? You have that conversation with 4 or 5 people, it will trickle. It will like make its way, disseminate its way through the crew, right? And then nobody ever wonders about it again. You don't have to worry that you seem like that one actor who like can't tell the difference between fantasy and reality. You don't have to worry about that.
It's just a simple, like, my technique is for me to be fluid and improvisational in my acting, is to stay in this thing as much as possible. And that's completely respectable. On the flip side of it, you know, I sometimes work with actors who want to test the boundaries of staying in or not. And because I'm a firm believer that with any good technique, you have to be able to trust it, which means you have to be able to let it go and get it back again. Right? And so on the flip side, if you find yourself in situations where like, I don't want to eat lunch today with everybody in the accent, great. So don't. And then just make sure that you do something to prep yourself to get back into the accent after lunch, right? Or anytime that you want to take a little break, take a little break. You know, a proverbial accent smoke break. No cigarettes, don't do that. But it's kind of one of those little breaks, and then you do something to make sure you can get yourself back in, springboard phrase, whatever else that technique you've been given. If it's me, you'll use a springboard phrase. We'll have a few of them, in fact, to get back into the accent. Right. So, but if it's easier for you, and I love what you said, Eliza, just talk about it to people. You know, nobody's going to be like, oh, that's that accent actor.
Yeah. I mean, we can't pretend that people don't think accents are kind of magic. People do, you know, if you can switch into an accent really fast. Have you ever seen somebody's face? People still feel that way about, even though they know it's science to a certain degree, they still feel like it's kind of magic. You can say, hey, I'm just going to stay in accent while we talk through this. It's just a way for me to make sure this stays authentic, like and correct.
Yeah. And you'll have your accent coach there, hopefully, to also help aid in that process as well. Speaking of which, what do you have to do to make sure you have an accent coach on set with you? What are some of the things? Now, sometimes you don't have any control over this at all, but if you do, what should an actor know, Eliza, about how to get their accent coach onto set?
That's a really good question. Well, to be fair, you should have your accent coach on set. That's what you should have. As an actor, that's part of your support team. It's part of what's going to make you look authentic. It's going to make the film look great. You should have that. Do we also not always get everything we should have? Yes, this is also true. So you have to be your own advocate. Depends on your relationship with the production. Depends on your relationship with the people in charge. If there is a coach on set, it's your prerogative as an actor to make sure that you can connect with them. You have a way of connecting with them. Are you going to be on set later when I do this scene? Are you going to have time in between this time and this time? I can come and find you. We can work. Or probably better, you can come and find me and we can work. That's the way that should work, because you as the talent, you need to be somewhere where a PA can find you. Your coach is not, that's not always true for them. So they can float. You must stay where they need you to be. Chris, do you want to speak to this? Because it has been my experience in the times when actors have advocated for themselves, it has gone a couple of different ways. Sometimes it has gone, yes, you get what you need. Sometimes it has gone, no.
Right. Yeah. So, because it can go both ways, and it's really dependent on a number of factors that are going to be largely outside of your control. But that being said, if production has agreed at any level to hire you an accent coach for pre-production, and you tell your agent, because this is going to come from your agent or your manager, whoever is interacting on your behalf with production. You tell your agent, I need my accent coach on set for me to be as good as they want me to be. I have to have that. And for me, as the talent, right now, it feels like a deal breaker. Like, I have to have that. Then your agent, your manager goes, and they can advocate on your behalf with production and make a stink about it. You know, we always want our reps to do that. We never want to do that ourselves. Right? Make sure your reps are going to be doing that. Right? So you can always blame your rep for, you know, rocking the boat if you need to. That's why they're there. They're happy to do it. All right? So if your rep is advocating on your behalf with production so that you get your coach on set, and then production would likely call, let's say, my rep or Eliza's rep, and then we would start a conversation about what that on-set time looked like, if they've got budget for it, things of that nature, or if we can, you know, sometimes they're like, well, I don't know about on set, but could we do more pre-production? Yes, of course, we can always do more pre-production work. We can always do more prep. More prep, of course, is always welcome. So these kinds of things, but just know this, your accent coach isn't automatically attached to you on set in this way. You must advocate for yourself in the same way that you would advocate for an acting coach that you needed on set, in the same way you'd advocate for a stunt coach that you needed on set, or a singing coach that you needed on set, or any number of things like that. You have to advocate for yourself so that you get the support on set that makes you the best possible. All right. That's I think that's the long and short of it. I don't really have anything else to add there. Do you, Eliza, anything?
No, although I do really love what you mentioned there about, oh, can we do more pre-production? That is sometimes, like Chris mentioned earlier, we as coaches, we want to give you techniques. We want to make it so that you can apply this work. And in that same kind of thought process, advocating for yourself is never, ever being selfish. Advocating for yourself is advocating for the film.
Yeah.
Or
that's a great mindset. You're advocating for the film to be, it's not an indulgence for you to have an accent coach when you're working with an accent well acted. That is not like an indulgence or something extra. It's actually a bare minimum. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bare minimum is that you have a coach and working with an accent. Right? That's bare minimum. And it's not an indulgence to have them on set with you. All right? Production often doesn't understand what that is actually like for you, the actor. So you have to understand that and again get your reps to advocate for you with them. That's the biggest thing I would say. We got a good question. Is this physically live on set or via Zoom? For Zoom work, it's a little bit different. I would say everything's kind of up for grabs when it's a Zoom production of some sort. I coached a Zoom production back in December, I think it was, and I got to coach. I did do pre-production for 3 or 4 of the actors, and then, you know, I got to watch the live reading, of the thing, and that was because you're limited in what you're able to do on Zoom. Live production, it's a whole circus that you have to, there's lions and tigers and bears and, you know, acrobats, and like it has to be managed in a certain way. So yeah, I would say this is more for live stuff than anything we're talking about here. So yes, advocating for yourself is advocating for the film. Because we all want the same thing. Want the film to be great, want it to win awards, we all want to be at the Oscars together and to celebrate that success of a great piece of art. All right? That's what we want, right? We want our art to be successful and satisfying and profound and moving to people. So this helps to do that. So we're about out of time in our last 10 minutes here. Let me see if I have any other questions. Ooh, here's one that I got sent by an actor. Line flubs and accents. Any tips to get these things sorted?
Yeah. No, I say that only because, like, if I had an answer, I'd bottle it. I'd make millions. You know? Yeah, I've got some techniques. Chris, you got any techniques?
Yeah, I do. All right. Number one, expect them. They will happen. Number two, embrace them if they have happened. Number three, until somebody else cut, you keep going. Okay? Never stop yourself. Because you're watching me do it right now. Like, I don't know exactly the thing I'm going to say next, but I'm in the moment trying to communicate. So if that happens to us in real life, it should also feel free to happen to you in the imaginary life we've created on set. So you can always keep going like a human being. You should train yourself to do that. All right? But if there's a particularly troublesome word in the accent that you have worked to master, and that word just is like this, the bane of your existence every time it comes up, right? And you have to say constructionism in your Scottish accent.
Teach me.
All right?
Teach me.
Right? Constructionism. So, I mean, that tapped R, constructionism, just always gets in your way, right? Or just there's something about that you see it looming like a, you know, like the Grim Reaper in the distance every time you approach that word, right? In those instances, just remember again, anxiety and joy and excitement feel the same way. So really you're having an experience of welcoming this word and to give yourself a little bit of help. All right. Imagine when you speak, you're you're on the road driving and you're in a 45-mile-an-hour zone. And then as you approach this sentence or phrase, you're turning the corner and you see it posted, 35 miles an hour. Just tap the brakes, slow down a little bit, and then accelerate out of the curve. You can take a tiny bit more time to say constructionism and still sound like a human being and still be in the flow of the line, still do all your work as an actor. But just a tiny bit of technique to take your foot off the gas. Give yourself the gift of a tiny bit of extra time to feel the physical things you have been trained in. That's my sort of piece of technique for that one of them at least.
That's a good one. I like that a lot. I think that I've seen that work. That's a good one. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard you talk about one, Eliza, that involved squeezing your big toe. Can you tell some more?
I can. So I have the technique that I find myself using with clients a lot on set is that if you give yourself a physical task on the syllable, then let's say it's constructionism in a Scottish accent. If your hands are not in frame, I would say hold on to your own palm and squeeze your own palm on the constructionism. So all that, you know, anxiety and excitement that's flowing through your body, it's got suddenly a task. But perhaps your hands are in frame, in which case curl your big toe inside of your shoe, constructionism. And that, again, will give you a task. And it's great. It's not that I always love that because it makes my body come to the very real kind of conclusion that, it's not that my tongue was tied. It's that my tongue is is the has the power of like a jaguar. Like it has all of this like horsepower. And if we're gonna stay in the car metaphor, it has the brakes of a tricycle. So so I just want to
the engine of a 12-liter Jaguar and the brakes of a tricycle. I love it.
You just take that horsepower, you put it into a different set of muscles. Yeah. They'll do what they're supposed to do.
Absolutely. So I actually love that exercise so much. I've stolen it shamelessly from Eliza.
Yeah. Yes, well, listen, I'm gonna absolutely give credit where it's due. There's an amazing dialect coach named Beth McGuire, and Beth McGuire often uses on set. She'll give her hand to an actor, and they'll squeeze it. So I learned that technique from Beth McGuire. I myself have resorted to this because so much of our work is via Zoom. But yeah,
I love this.
Truth is truth.
It really is, right? Right. So my friends, you should take these techniques and use them for yourself. One question here in the chat before we wrap up today. Robin, who's always setting the bar very high, Robin Collins, she asks, when somebody important says something like, "You'll never make it in this town," is it good that they are being honest or bad that they aren't nurturing? When somebody important says it, maybe a big director or agent or coach, what do you do? Ooh, all right. Well, I have great advice on this one.
Oh, good.
All right.
What is it?
Out loud, say to them, "Thank you. I appreciate your honesty, and anything constructive that I could do to maybe increase my chances," and ask them that advice. And inside your head, I would politely go tell them to fuck themselves. Because they are not the ones who are in charge of your success or failure. The only person who is in charge of your success or failure, and that's largely determined by your desire and your diligence and your hard work and your ability to follow the steps that you need to be a working actor in this business, all right, is the person you look at when you're looking in the mirror. It's you. That's the person, all right? Obviously, opportunities are given by other people, okay? But these people are telling you you'll never make it in this town. Those aren't the people you want to work with anyway. All right? Because you're right, they're not nurturing. They do not have a spirit of artistic generosity. They don't have a spirit of collaboration. It's a collaborative art form. All right? And what they are doing is they're saying here's a door and you need to know the secret knock to get in. But F you, you're not going to teach it to you. And you'll only learn it if you're very lucky somehow, some way by knowing somebody special. And that's a real dick move by somebody, all right? Pardon my French, but it's just, my face is going red. My Irish blood is getting peaked, and I'm just like, this makes me so angry when somebody whose job it is to cultivate talent shits on actors this way. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. So, out loud, be kind because it costs you nothing to be kind. Yeah. Inside, tell them politely to go put it where the sun meets you.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I would actually follow up with that. Since we've been talking about onset, here's a thing that you don't always learn until you get to set, which is that there has never been a set run the way that everybody thinks it should be run.
Right. Oh God, yes.
And so you may find yourself, I love what Chris just said. He's like, say out loud only positive things because it costs you nothing to be nice. When you're on set, you may find yourself wanting to bond with people. You may find yourself chatting with members of the crew, members of the cast. There will always be people who are upset with the way things are being run. Always, every single set. And there will always be people upset with the people who are running things. And there will always be people who have opinions, right? Yes. So as a golden rule, do not go negative about the set you are on. Honestly, don't go negative at all. Don't do it. It feels tempting because you want to bond. Never do it. It costs you nothing to stay positive, and it will just come back and haunt you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because people will hire you once because you're talented. and they'll take a chance occasionally. They'll hire you a second and third and 50th time because you're awesome to work with and you're a good collaborator, right? And that's that positivity, all right? I can break it down into 3 components: fearless artistry, artistic generosity, empathy. If you possess those 3 things as an actor, boy howdy, you're going to be in great shape. All right, artistic fearlessness, imagination. That's where you're fearless with your imagination. Artistic generosity. That's where you're fearless in collaboration with other people. Empathy. Yeah, this is where you get to crawl inside the skin of other human beings and share their stories. This is what we're about in this business. So if you have those 3 things, always rely on them. Manage all of your communications and your interactions on set with people, because you're going to be around the people who are griping. And if you can filter that gripe through the artistic generosity and the empathy lens for yourself, all of a sudden, now you have a thing to move forward, and you can say, to stay positive, gosh, it's such a hard job for the second AD to do all of that. And man, they are working their ass off, and it's like they're passionate to make sure that this thing's awesome. And I'm so happy to see that, right?
And you don't have to be untruthful, right? You just have to not, like Chris says, just have to not shit on people trying to do their jobs. That's all you gotta do.
I have a t-shirt. Just don't shit on people.
Just don't shit on people. And on that note, I feel like we're not gonna hit it any higher.
Yeah, we're not gonna peak any higher than that, my friends. So listen, actors on TMFA, I hope you had a fun time listening to this conversation. After all, Eliza and I are here to help you. So if you are interested in getting coaching with either of us, please do mention it in the comments. If you want to go right now, Eliza is www.dialectsnow.com. All of her social media is @dialectsnow, so it's very easy to remember: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube face channel thing, whatever else you have. All right, it's all @dialectsnow. Eliza's wonderful to work with. You're gonna love working with Eliza. So if you're interested in finding a great yummy coach, go talk to Eliza. If you want to find another great yummy coach, you can come talk to me. If you want to train with me, dialectcoachchrislang.com. Find me on Twitter and Insta @dialectcoachcl, and also on TikTok as well @dialectcoachcl. We want you guys to come and train because we want you to be successful. All right. The key to being successful is having that training, which allows you to be set free in the moment. And if you don't have that training, you're always going to have anxiety and weirdness around, like, oh, can I even live up to the expectations of my life as an actor? All right. Invest now, train today. The time to have your accents in order is way before you need them on set. Way before. First thing we talked about was prep. First thing, got to prepare. So we are here to help, so please do reach out to us. Put your questions into the comments if you're not watching this live so that we can answer them. We will circle back. And I'll just say this. I love you, Eliza. Thank you for joining me.
I love you too, Chris. I feel the same.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Yeah, we're a continent apart practically. She's there on the East Coast, and I'm here in the mountains. So but we a long distance virtual hug, and I hope to have Eliza back very, very soon to talk more accents. If you guys have anything you would like to see, TMFA question, #TMFA question, #accents, any accent question, pop it in the group. I'll make sure to include it in another Technique Tuesday. But outside of that, I am done, D-U-N, done today. And I just want to wish everybody a beautiful week. So stay healthy, stay hydrated, stay artistically plugged in, stay training, and stay human. No zombies.